Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NTD Tonight. I'm David Zhang. Here is a preview of some of today's top stories. A prosecutor won't extradite a murder suspect from Arizona to New York. Find out the reason behind the decision. New York Judge Arthur Engoron denies Trump's request to delay enforcing the $350 million civil fraud ruling. More on recent developments. California seems to have a larger budget deficit than they originally thought. More on the new report and where the losses are coming from. An Arizona prosecutor says she won't extradite an NYC murder suspect, citing concerns over Manhattan DA's handling of violent offenders. NTD's Christina Corona has more on the story.
Rod Al-Mansuri, 26, is a suspect in the killing of Denise Olias Arancibia, 38, who was found dead next to a broken iron in her room at the Soho 54 Hotel in Manhattan on February 8th. Al-Mansuri was then arrested 10 days later in Scottsdale, Arizona.
On Sunday, February 18th, at about 8:27 hours, officers responded to the McDonald's at 15525 West Greenway Road in reference to a female victim been attacked and sustained stab wounds to her neck.
Patrol officers administered initial life-saving aid. The 18-year-old girl received ongoing treatment from the fire and medical department during transport for emergency surgery.
Based on the information known at the time, officers canvassed the area for a suspect, and while doing so, were notified of a stolen vehicle that had just occurred in the general direction from which the suspect had fled.
Patrol, tactical support, communications, and CID aided in the search for the suspect. A stolen vehicle soon was found near Scottsdale Fashion Square Mall.
The occupant matched the description of the outstanding suspect and was identified as Rod Al-Mansuri. He was subsequently taken into custody without incident.
Al-Mansuri admitted to his involvement in the Surprise City incident, as well as another stabbing that occurred in Phoenix on February 17th.
While originally speaking with Al-Mansuri, he also admitted to committing a homicide in New York prior to fleeing to Arizona.
The New York Police Department was contacted and confirmed the incident.
New York PD will be seeking a warrant and is in the process of getting an arrest warrant and working out extradition with our county attorney.
However, Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell said,
I know there's been discussion about New York wanting to extradite this individual, and I'm sure that this is not aimed at the New York Police Department at all. I know they did a hard job and they did a good job, but we will not be agreeing to extradition. I've instructed my extradition attorneys not to agree to that. We're going to keep him here. These are mandatory prison sentences.
She goes on to say,
and having observed the treatment of violent criminals in the New York area by the Manhattan DA there, Alvin Bragg, I think it's safer to keep him here and keep him in custody.
Emily Tuttle, a representative for Bragg, told reporters, it's deeply disturbing that Mitchell is playing political games in a murder investigation. The Arizona prosecutor's actions are offensive to the NYPD and all of our law enforcement partners. Al-Mansuri is being held without bail in Arizona, where he's been accused of stabbing 2 women. Christina Corona, NTD News.
Now let's take a look at other top headlines. Historic moon landing in 5 decades. Just hours ago, the Odysseus lunar lander, nicknamed ODI or IM-1, became the first U.S.-made spacecraft to touch down on the moon after more than 50 years, and the first ever by a private company. The lander, built by Houston-based Intuitive Machines, was carried into the Earth's orbit by a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket last week. It's about the size of a British telephone booth, and it landed at the south pole of the moon, 250,000 miles away from the Earth at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time.
Some people have likened it to, hitting a golf ball in New York and having it go into a particular hole-in-one in L.A.
ODI lander carries 6 NASA payloads and an array of scientific instruments designed to test the new technology or evaluate the lunar environment. Specifically, scientists will be looking for water.
If there's water, there's rocket fuel, hydrogen and oxygen, and we could have a gas station on the south pole of the moon.
Only a handful of countries have successfully landed vehicles on the moon since the United States and the Soviet Union achieved that milestone in 1966. India and Japan have landed robotic vehicles on the moon in the last 6 months. Today's success came after a failed U.S. lunar landing mission last month that ended with the Peregrine spacecraft burning up in the atmosphere. The judge in former President Donald Trump's civil fraud case has rejected a request from the defense to delay the enforcement of the penalties in the case. Yesterday, Trump asked the New York Supreme Court Judge Arthur Engoron to delay enforcing the $355 million ruling against him for 1 month. In a letter to the judge, Trump's attorneys accused the New York Attorney General Letitia James of rushing to enforce the judgment by seeking to seize Trump's assets. Trump has 30 days from when a judgment is entered to post bond and appeal. He was ordered to pay $355 million plus interest for fraudulently inflating the values of his properties. He was also banned from acting as an officer of any New York business for 3 years. Judge Engoron wrote an email posted Thursday to the court's docket saying, "You have failed to explain, much less justify, any basis for a stay. I'm confident that the appellate division will protect your appellate rights." While Trump is facing multiple legal battles, he is currently holding a comfortable 30-point lead over former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley ahead of this Saturday's South Carolina primary. NTD will have live coverage of South Carolina Republican primary, including special guests on the ground reporting and Data Hub. Join Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer on The Nation Decides 2024, live this Saturday, February 24th at 6 p.m. Thousands of AT&T customers have reported cell phone service outages early this morning. More than 74,000 customers reported issues with placing calls, texting, or accessing the internet, according to the tracking site Down Detector. AT&T acknowledged that they had a widespread outage but did not provide a reason for the system failure. By late morning, AT&T said most of its network had been restored. Some Verizon and T-Mobile customers have also reported service disruptions, but both companies say their networks aren't experiencing an outage. The FCC confirmed this afternoon that it's investigating the incident. Meanwhile, pharmacies across the country are reporting delays to prescription orders due to a cyber attack against one of the nation's largest healthcare technology companies. Change Healthcare, a company handling orders and patient payments throughout the U.S., first noticed the cybersecurity issue affecting its networks Wednesday morning on the East Coast. In a statement, the company says it's experiencing a network interruption related to a cybersecurity issue, and our experts are working to address the matter. Once we became aware of the outside threat, in the interest of protecting our partners and patients, we took immediate action to disconnect our systems to prevent further impact. Pharmacies across the country have put out notices that the attack on Change Healthcare is disrupting their ability to process patients' orders. Change Healthcare didn't specify the nature nor origin of the cybersecurity issue it encountered. It turns out California has a larger deficit than originally thought. According to a recent report, it has ballooned to $73 billion.
According to the California Legislative Analyst's Office on February 20th, the state's deficit is now at $73 billion, $15 billion more than the initial estimate. Now the legislature needs to find a solution to address the increased amount for 2024 to 25. Solutions include revenue increases and spending reductions, as well as other tools like reserves and cost shifts. John Seiler, a columnist for the Epoch Times, recently discussed California's growing budget deficit and the impact of a proposed legislation that would provide state benefits to undocumented immigrants. Senate Bill 227, if passed, would grant unemployment insurance to illegal immigrants in California at an estimated cost of $2 billion annually.
The budget that Newsom submitted on the 10th of January, he said there was a $38 billion deficit, and 2 years ago we had a $100 billion surplus. So the main problem in California is the rich people, and now a lot of middle class, the upper middle class are leaving. So they're not paying those taxes. And the LAO, they call it, the Legislative Analyst's Office, they had a study showing that cost them $28 billion right there, just people leaving in the last year.
Seiler says half of the state's income comes from the rich, who pay 14.4% for income tax. The state is also still paying back $32 billion that was stolen in fraudulent unemployment claims during the pandemic. According to Seiler's analysis, this amounts to over $900 per California taxpayer to repay. Seiler argues that providing additional benefits like unemployment insurance and free health care to illegal immigrants will only exacerbate California's budget crisis. It could also encourage more illegal immigration as people come to California seeking government assistance. Seiler also mentioned the state's spending for public schools has increased after Proposition 98 was voted into law in 1988. It establishes a minimum funding level for schools and community colleges.
They're spending more than $23,000 a year on each child in the public schools in California, $23,000. So that's a huge chunk of the budget, and they're not going to cut that. We have a really good private school called Mater Dei High School. It's a Catholic parochial school, and they charge $19,000 a year. And they have great sports teams. You probably heard of them. They win championships and excellent academics, too. I know a friend of mine has a granddaughter who's there right now. They love it. So the state spends at least $4,000 more than a top private school, and yet the test scores are just terrible in this state.
Similarly, Assemblyman Bill Asaley said the state has too many projects it wants to keep, like more spending for schools and homelessness, but doesn't see the results for them.
We'll take a short break now, everybody, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. Bobi lost his title as the world's oldest dog. This comes as a vet group in the UK pressured Guinness to validate the dog's age. Sunny skies return to Southern California after one of the wettest Februaries on record. We'll bring you more on the weather. Colorado has a new national park. More on the significance and history of this location. Those stories and more coming up on NTD Tonight. Welcome back to NTD Tonight. I'm your host, David Zhang. Guinness World Records has backtracked on naming the world's oldest dog record holder. The decision came after a veterinarian group put pressure on Guinness, triggering a month-long investigation. NTD's Jason Blair reports.
Guinness said in a news release on Thursday that it, quote, no longer has the evidence it needs to support Bobi's claim as the record holder. In February 2023, Bobi was recognized by Guinness World Records as the oldest dog ever recorded at age 30. Shortly after Bobi died in October 2023, a member from the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons put public pressure on Guinness. He said his group demanded more validation of Bobi's age. Guinness eventually announced a review of Bobi's record in January. Mark McKinley, who conducted the review at Guinness, said, quote, following concerns raised by vets and other experts, both privately as well as within public commentary, and the findings of investigations conducted by some media outlets, we felt it important to open a review into Bobi's record. Guinness has not made any accusations of deception, saying, quote, central to Bobi's evidence was microchip data sourced from the Portuguese government database, the SIAC, which it transpires, when chipped in 2022, did not require proof of age for dogs born before 2008. Since Bobi was born before 2008, the microchip data didn't hold enough weight to validate Bobi's age. Guinness also said they will assess any new evidence if it's presented. Bobi's owner, Lionel Costa, often told the media that Bobi ate home-cooked meals and not packaged dog food. This was widely common for pets before the packaged pet food industry got its start after World War II and grew into a multi-billion-dollar industry. Some experts say that pets used to live longer in the past.
A geriatric dog was like 15 to 17. Now we've pushed it so far back that a geriatric dog is 8 years old.
The public pressure from the veterinarian group triggered some controversy, alleging that the pet food industry was behind the pressure challenging Bobi's age. Dana Adams, an admin assistant for popular veterinarian Karen Becker, told Wired magazine that, quote, a lobby organization waited until the poor little guy's cremation day to raise questions to Guinness about additional testing. She also said, quote, those of us in the pet space know it never goes well when you threaten a multi-billion-dollar empire. Guinness has not announced a new oldest dog title holder yet, saying it might take some time. Jason Blair, NTD News.
In Southern California, the LA River is usually dry. Car washes are open, and every day is generally a good day for a swim. This month has been different. However, as the weather-soaked Angelenos long for a return to sunshine, blue skies, and warm temperatures. NTD's Bill Thomas finally stows his umbrella and checks in with this report.
Earlier this week, an enormous amount of rainfall led to flooding, rock slides, mudslides, far too many collisions, even freeway closures. Well, the rain has eased up and the numbers are in. We've just experienced record-setting rainfall. A strange sight in L.A. both yesterday and today as a bright orange orb dominated the sky. It was the sun, bringing a warm welcome to locals who've grown tired of clouds, wind, and rain. Lots and lots of rain. February is far from over, but currently, this month is now one of the wettest months ever recorded in downtown Los Angeles, with more than 12.5 inches of rain reported so far. The most recent storm dropped just under 2 inches of rain in the Southland, making it the fourth wettest February in downtown LA since 1877, and that's when rainfall records were first reported. According to the National Weather Service, current rainfall levels are impressive, but 26 years ago, February 1998 was the wettest February on record with 13.68 inches of rain. But wait, it gets better and wetter. The wettest month ever recorded was December 1889, when 15.8 inches of rain fell, drenching the City of Angels. The numbers are impressive, and this is only the 10th month with a foot or more of rain recorded in downtown Los Angeles. You should also know this is the third wettest February on record for Los Angeles International Airport, and the fifth wettest of any month since 1944, when records began being reported at LAX. In a normally drought-stricken region, the above-average amount of rainfall here in Los Angeles is greatly appreciated by folks who cherish their green lawns, time spent lounging around the pool, and taking long walks through the neighborhood, all without an umbrella. But keep that umbrella handy, because there's more rain in the forecast, and it could arrive as early as Monday. Bill Thomas, NTD News, Los Angeles.
A rare lake emerges in Death Valley, attracting kayakers and nature enthusiasts. NTD's Stephanie Sikal has the story.
A temporary lake has formed in Death Valley National Park, one of the driest places in the U.S. due to record rains and flooding in eastern California. The lake, in the typical dry bad water basin, is attracting visitors eager to kayak and enjoy the surreal landscape. Despite initial road closures and flooding damage, the park is now accessible, offering visitors a chance to experience this unique event. NASA satellite images show its formation after storms in August and February. Despite initial expectations that it would disappear quickly, the lake has persisted, with park officials speculating that it may last until late March. Visitors can enjoy kayaking and reflections of surrounding peaks, but the lake's future beyond April remains uncertain. Stephanie Sikal, NTD News.
Amache National Historic Site joins the list of U.S. national parks, preserving World War II incarceration history and honoring the past. NTD's Stephanie Sikal tells us more.
Amache National Historic Site in Colorado has become the newest U.S. national park. Previously a World War II Japanese-American incarceration center, the site, also known as the Granada Relocation Center, detained over 10,000 people from 1942 to 1945. It's now the 7th national park preserving this history. National Park Service Director Chuck Sams said, quote, Amache's addition to the national park system is a reminder that a complete account of the nation's history must include our dark chapters of injustice. Adding to that, to heal and grow as a nation, we need to reflect on past mistakes, make amends, and strive to form a more perfect union. Despite the removal of original buildings, Amache remains a significant World War II site with structures and a cemetery contributing to his historical value. The formal national park status was announced ahead of the Day of Remembrance of Japanese incarceration during World War II. Stephanie Sukal, NTD News.
Stay tuned for China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer coming up next. And in more China news, a rare glimpse into China's hacking operations. Leaked documents show Chinese military groups are preparing cyber attacks against the foreign governments. Who are the targets? Tune in at 9:30 on NTD's China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer. And that's all we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on NTD Tonight every weekday at 9 p.m. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.